You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 273, and my name is Clark from 5cardguys.com and 5cardguys on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook and on YouTube. Co-hosting with me, as usual, is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards on Instagram. John's away this week, but we're hoping he can join us next week. All right, so off the top, I want to talk about the release of WNBA Prizm, which is arguably flying off the shelves at premium prices because of one player, and her name, of course, is Caitlin Clark. And I saw one social media post just the other night, and it showed that hobby boxes for WNBA Prizm are selling on average for about $1,200.
Wow,
right?
That's crazy.
And if you compare that to a hobby box of NBA, just regular NBA 2024-25 Prizm, it's selling for $700.
That's
okay?
nuts.
So $1,200 versus $700. Now, like I said, the chase is obviously Caitlin Clark's flagship Prizm rookie, which is in that box. And the latest sales I've seen on eBay, and these are all raw, just to give you some comps, they're going for $500 for silver Prizms, $800 for red Prizms, which are numbered to $299,
Right.
and blue Prizms numbered to $199. The last one sold for $1,800.
Wow.
Again, all raw. So Hyung, your thoughts on this year's WNBA release, and do you think Caitlin Clark cards are overvalued, undervalued, or just right at this time?
Oh man, I can't. We can't say that we haven't seen this before.
Right.
Just in general, like you take Victor Wembanyama, you go all the way back to Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like we're in that repetitive cycle again. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around it, and it's a first release. So my question is, how many people are in it long term versus the flip? So let's just say you have like 90% of people that agree that there's great opportunity with Caitlin Clark, her being in the spotlight. How many eyes are like on her right now? How many of what percentage of the hobby is actually collecting Caitlin Clark in the long term? Right?
That's the question, yeah.
And for me, that's going to dictate whether or not it's overvalued or undervalued. So for me, it's easy. It's definitely overvalued. And we've seen prices, and maybe they sit sideways for a bit or even go down like in the short term. But I think long term, it's the same hype that we see with every rookie. But I think if you're going to go in on a rookie early, it would be Wemby over Caitlin Clark. Right? Like for me, like that's the only thing. But if you believe long term in the WNBA and Caitlin Clark as a whole, and you're a long-term collector, then great. Yeah, you could justify it, but definitely overvalued in every single aspect. Because how many autos are there in a Prizm hobby box?
Oh man, I didn't look that up, but yeah.
Maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but like that's some serious like if you're talking about gambling, that is the ultimate gamble.
I mean, release of any hyped product in the first couple of weeks is the ultimate gamble, right?
Yeah.
But no, I get your point for sure, and I think I've already seen a lot of comps between Wemby and Caitlin Clark. Like these are players that transcend their respective sports. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like other people from different sports kind of know who they are because they just stick out. They're not even fans of the sport. Right?
Yeah, I get it.
So, I mean, I agree with you with the WNBA box. It's overvalued because you're only going after one player. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not hating on any other WNBA players, but let's be real. Caitlin Clark is the only player that you're going after if you're not a WNBA fan,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I'm going to just focus on Caitlin Clark cards, okay? And I think, I don't want to say she's 100% over. Right now she is, but I think in a month or two, when prices start to settle down, I think those prices will be reasonable. So I'm also looking at Victor Wembanyama. Look at his cards, right? When his rookie cards came out, his flagship rookie in the Prizm set, what was it? Just last year, 2023, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you see the initial, and I'm looking at PSA 10 values. So these are already graded, but the initial PSA 10 values they sold for over 2,000.
Wow.
In February of 2024. And then it dips in May of 2024. So March, April, May. 3 months later, it dips, cuts, the prices chop in half to 1,150. Okay?
Yes.
So 3 months, you got a 50% discount from the initial sales. Ever since then, it's been flatlined. Like, you know what I mean? It hasn't been going down any further than that. I think that's the trend I'm expecting for Caitlin Clark. Wait for 3 months, it'll drop to a value, and I think that'll be the floor, because I think Caitlin Clark has the notoriety and has the fan base to support the floor even after 3 months of the release, right? So that's my thought.
So PSA 10 would be, I guess, similar, probably most likely. So you'd see almost an identical trend with Victor Wembanyama, right? In terms, because if his PSA 10s are like 2,000 at one point, I would assume that based on a $500 raw silver Prizm, if somebody PSA 10s, it depends. And that's another question. Do you know if these WNBA cards, these Prizm cards, are short printed in general? I would assume so, because the market would be a lot less than NBA Prizms. And maybe that's why prices are bonkers, because they still have enormous demand for the product, but they've scaled it probably down compared to a hobby box of NBA, like NBA Prizm.
You think so? But I don't know if I believe that 100%.
You think they're printing?
Prizm, like, I don't know what their license deal is with WNBA. I'm sure it's similar to the NBA, so they're gonna lose it. Are they? I'm. Someone can fact check me, but if they are, then don't they have every incentive to overprint? This is their last hurrah.
I guess.
Kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. But I think overall, just in general, they would have to. It would be dependent on the WNBA and their ability to market the game beyond this year. I think that's crucial in terms of whether or not this would be a sound investment. And obviously, we agree that prices are inflated right now, just because based on release, and then based on hype. So I agree. You monitor prices in about 3 months, 4 months, see where it is. But then again, it's like, do you want to take that risk? Because most likely the trend is you're sitting sideways. And that's to prove it's like Victor's having a pretty good season at the end of the day, and it's still sitting sideways, right? So that will give you context of what happens if the opposite happens. You're going to see a massive decline even further, right? Because if Victor's doing what he's meant to do and prices are sitting sideways, that tells me that, the true value has not yet caught up with inflated prices. Sure.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a good point, because at the end of the day too, like Victor Wembanyama, NBA, it's a viable league,
Yeah.
Whereas the WNBA, Caitlin, like, can one person really sustain the whole league for how long?
Right.
So to your point, the WNBA has to be able to market their league better beyond even Caitlin Clark if they want to have some kind of sustainable business model.
And just to throw on that, from a sustainable perspective, WNBA invest in grassroots sports. That's how you do it. You got to go all in on grassroots sports. You got to grow the game from that level and get the hype going from from the early ages to buy into the culture of women's basketball in general. So that's my 2 cents on that. I mean, I'm just involved in development in baseball side, right? So I always see kind of like the hurdles that you have to overcome from a macro scale of the whole sports lens, right? It's like, how do you create that sustainability? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Agreed. All right. With that, let's move on to hobby headlines. So I was reading this Sports Illustrated article recently, and it's titled, "Could Paul Skeens Help the Popularity of Second-Year Cards?" Okay, and the crux of the article argues that just like what happened in the hobby boom during the pandemic, when the rookie card prices just skyrocketed, some collectors started going for second-year cards as cheaper alternatives of their favorite players, right? Now, we see history kind of repeating itself in 2024 and into 2025 with card prices creeping back up, especially of key rookie cards. And the article actually uses Paul Skeens as an example, as well as Connor Bedard, where, you know, the one-of-ones or the high-end rookie card chase, they're just unattainable for regular collectors. You got to be lucky to hit them. And even then, if you're trying to buy hobby boxes, those cost hundreds of dollars, right? And you're just gambling. So what they're saying in the article is that, okay, now the collectors are turning to cheaper alternatives again, like second-year cards. So my first question for you, Hyung, is what do you think of collecting second-year cards? You know, and do you think there's any upside in collecting them as an investment?
We've said it on this pod many times. I'm a huge fan. I think second-year cards have always been a thing. And we've always said that second-year cards are the most undervalued probably investment that you could make in this hobby, is because everybody's on that rookie card chase. When is that time when the rookie card chase dies down? Because there's not enough supply for that demand. And we're going to always see an overinflated price on the absolute studs, right? And history, like you said, repeats itself. It's, you take a LeBron second-year Topps Chrome card. Would you say that, hey, during the rookie card chase of LeBron, that probably would have been a good alternative to chase, like a gold out of 10, you know, second year versus trying to get like a gold first-year card, right? And I think you see that a lot. And I've played that game too, because I had a Pop 1 Juan Soto second year Independence Day PSA 10. Nice. And it's second year rookie cup. And at the time I bought it off Chris Jones, I remember. And that Chris Jones is well known in the hobby, I guess, in the Midwest. But he sold it to me for $900. And I remember at that time it was like, whoa, you're really overpaying for a second year card. Right? And then on Juan Soto's hype, I actually tried to sell it for $3,000, but I couldn't. And I ended up settling at like $2,100 or something like that, which is a great sale at the end of the day. But I think it's always been in play. And I'll take it even a step further. I don't even think it's now second year cards. I think there's opportunities on just rare cards. So like I said, we go back to Ohtani's Dodger uniform. I think as it ages, it's going to be a very desirable card in terms of, let's just say, a rare version of that card, right? So I think it's giving collectors an ability to see outside the typical norms of rookie card chasing. And for me too, I don't mind not having a non-rookie card. If I really like the card and it's super rare and I find it like, hey, this could potentially be a big card down the road, I'm all for that. And I think, like, for instance, we talked about this on the pod on the Ohtani hype. It's like Ohtani autos are overpriced. A good alternative is like a red ink second year.
Yeah.
You know, that's really affordable. It has the old auto. So 100%, whether or not this is propaganda by Sports Illustrated and Fanatics to hype up, you know, different cards. I think it's still a viable option. I love that game. So I've always believed that to be true. And maybe it's more making the mainstream right now just based on kind of like the hype of the hobby. But yeah, I think it's always been a play, and there's great buying opportunities.
Yeah, bang on. I agree with you 100%. And Otani was the comp I was thinking of right now, especially because Otani rookie autos are just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And for obvious reasons. But like you said, the first Otani auto where he's in a Dodgers uniform, I'm sure there's going to be a chase for that, and not just like I wrote this down even before you started to kind of share your thoughts. First year of any player on a new team. So Juan Soto in his Yankees uniform, Juan Soto in his Mets uniform.
I think the Yankees Juan Soto is going to age really well because you're going to look at his career and you're going to be like, what the heck happened in New York? Like there's not a lot of those cards.
Yeah.
Especially the rare ones.
And especially of a player like Juan Soto. If he has a Hall of Fame career,
right.
There's going to be Juan Soto super collectors out
100%.
there. If you 10, 15, 20 years down the line, like that's going to be desirable for sure. And it's Yankees too, so there's extra premium for that as well. Right? The only ones that you probably won't collect is how a lot of these players, when they do get older, they start to bounce around teams.
Yeah, right? And then it's like, oh man, they just ruined it.
It's like Shaquille O'Neal in a Boston Celtics uniform. I don't know if I need that.
No, you need him to just end off as a New York Met, have like 100+ WAR career, and then it's like you have the only like red ink Yankee auto of Juan Soto of that whole career, right? So no, I love that. But I will say the dangers of this game, Clark. Mm-hmm. Be prepared to sit sideways. You know what I mean? Be prepared to sit sideways. But that's why it's a more long-term smart play, because you don't know when that market's going to hit, right? So just treat it as, you know what? I truly believe in this market. I truly believe in this price, right? Mm-hmm. That's the key, is the buy-in, not where you sell it or where it goes. It's what you buy it for. And you're like, this is a solid buy because I believe in the future longevity of this card. And the best part, I used to love that card, that Juan Soto second year Independence Day, because even though it was a horizontal card, it had Juan Soto in his Washington Nationals uniform. But the Independence Day parallel in 2019 was like the whole card.
Right.
So the eye appeal on that thing was insane.
Yeah, it looked nice.
So I enjoyed holding that card even though it sat sideways for a long time.
Again, you said what I was going to say. You got to collect what you love, essentially. That makes it easier 100%. To hold for a long time.
Yes.
And
the price has to justify you selling it.
Yeah. And actually, that's why we're talking about this, right? Like, it's a cheaper alternatives. So if you're investing in something, we're assuming that you're not investing thousands of dollars into it, hoping that it's going to 10x from that point on. Right? So these are smart plays potentially, but if they aren't, you're theoretically not in it for a lot of money anyways, relatively speaking. Do you have any other card ideas, like in terms of second year cards? If we go beyond that, something I've been thinking about is like insert cards. Insert cards that, usually they're not as, costly, right? Especially if it's not their rookie year. But there are some insert cards like Kabooms and Downtowns, when they first came out before the hype, they're probably relatively affordable. But now everyone wants them, so they're at a certain level. But then, every year, Topps or Panini, whatever the set is, they come out with new insert cards. And, some of the artwork is amazing, right? And maybe if you like the visuals, or you think that they're really cheap, and like home field advantage, people know on this podcast I'm a huge fan. They're so cheap right now, relatively speaking. And I'm just collecting them, and who knows what will happen in the future, but I like them anyways. So insert cards might be a play.
Yeah, 100%. Insert cards have tremendous eye appeal. So I think that's why people like inserts. But then you have to make sure that those inserts are the desirable ones. You know what I mean? People know about that Otani card, or people know about that Steph Curry insert, like a Kaboom or something like that, where the brand is strong, right? So there is that. And I will say, to add on to that, I would say a safe play usually is Topps Chrome. Just the flagship version any year. Because if you think about even a LeBron James or Steph Curry, let's just say fourth year, that is a popular image, and you have a super rare card of that or a parallel of that. I think Topps Chrome in general is your safe bet. Like if you look back in time, it's like a 2004 Topps Chrome LeBron James, refractor even, right? Yep. And then the chalk toss became popular, right? So it's like those are the cards that you kind of want to really hone in on, where there's not too much risk because it ages really well. The more it ages, the chalk toss card becomes more valuable, right? Yes. Just in general, right? Because the limited run.
I like that. Yeah, Topps Chrome, iconic brand. Yeah, usually a great play. And some of these lower numbered cards, even with the insert cards that we're talking about, they probably should be an SP or an SSP,
yes,
right?
Not a generic.
Like case hits. Yeah. Even if they're not numbered, but that they're kind of short printed. Keep that in mind as well, because there are insert cards that are printed to the moon. You don't want you can collect those for PC reasons, but if you're hoping that they'll start to skyrocket in price at any point in the future, probably won't, because there's been a billion printed. So look for short printed insert cards, short printed cards in general, and then there might be a play for you there. Any other one? Oh, I was just trying to think in my head before we started recording. This is kind of different, but because it has to do with grading, so PSA 10s is what everyone wants now. But I think if you target even first year rookie cards in BGS or SGC or CGC slabs,
for sure,
you can see some of the price differential on some of these cards compared to PSA 10. It's just ridiculous.
It's crazy.
I think if it's like at least 50% of the price of between for example, PSA 10 and a BGS 9.5, I think that's a solid deal most of the time.
Always. And that's why it's like, at the end of the day, if you're buying on value, that's where you go. If you want value, look away from the PSA 10. Remember, PSA 10 is more about liquidity, I think. And the value is in the BGS slabs. The value is in the SGC slabs. The value is in the wrong slab. Meaning, you know what I mean? Like if it's like it's like, what is it doing in the slab where, you don't understand the grade, and maybe it's like dirt cheap, fractions of a PSA 10. Hey, that's a great purchase, right? So I think, buying based on value on grading is always a strong play. Yeah. Yep.
I'm always looking for nice cards that are just too expensive in a PSA 10, but in a BGS 9.5,
BGS 9.5, it's like 50%, right?
Yeah.
Or more.
A lot of these cards.
Or more.
Yeah, depending on the card for sure. Yeah, I was just going to say shout out to our friend DC, who's the king of cracking slabs out of out of what they're in, and I feel like he says it's in the wrong slab a lot of the times.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, any other ideas before we go on, or?
No, I don't really have any more ideas. I'm just thinking what I see value in. And like I said, I'm always like, it's on the buy. So that's where you have to look, because if you're always looking on what the hype is, you're buying on the sell, right? Yeah. So it's like, you got to go in on the buy. What's like, this is worth it. And that's why for me, it's all about collectability. Like for me, it's like, I generally like to collect like eye appeal and rare stuff. I think that's my biggest, like what I've summed up in the last 4 or 5 years of doing this podcast is like, this is what I like. I don't really care for the rookie hyped cards. I look at the chalk toss card in 2010 or whenever 2009 or whatever it was. It's like, that's the play you would want to make long term. Right. Yeah. So it's the same thing. There's so many amazing eye appeal cards in a marketplace where sports has never been marketed this much in general. So if you take these iconic images that aren't like necessarily the Bowman Chrome 2018 of Shohei, there's new cards that are released that are like, wow, this is an amazing card. That's it. That's the way you need to purchase in my opinion, as a collector / someone who likes to also sell for a profit when the time is right.
Yeah. No, great piece of advice. If I'm truthful, if I'm honest with you, I'm getting there. I love the rookie card chase.
Don't get me right. Yeah, that's like 80%, 90% of my collection too.
I FOMO into the rookie cards that everyone else wants as well. I'm like, dang, that'll be nice in my collection. But I am learning to appreciate other cards of those players. So, case in point, actually, you reminded me of this. I almost pulled the trigger on a Bobby Wood Jr. It's a Bowman Chrome Mojo. It's one of the, I think it comes out of those silver packs, or it's like a.
Is this first?
He's batting in it. Like, it's a better visual than even his.
That was pre-rookie card? So it was Bowman. So it's a mega box. It has to be
mega box. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a mega box. Yeah. And there's a white, there's a blue number to 150. There's an orange number to, you know what I mean? Like, there's less parallels, but it's just a sweet card, and it's going for a fraction of the price of its first Bowman. Where Will, our buddy, likes to make fun of the highly photoshopped picture in those in that set, right?
Right.
But it's just a better looking card in my opinion. I'm sure in a lot of other people's opinion as well.
Right.
And it's like $800-900 for even a blue raw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A blue raw of a first Bowman is going to go cost thousands of dollars comparatively. So
that was always an interesting play, and I'm glad you brought this up because, like, I always monitored that because that was always the move. It's like during that time of Bobby Witt hype, it was like the first Bowman obviously was a chase, and then he went through enormous pricing. So everybody fell to the next available, which was, the 2020, Bowman Chrome, right? Because he was in the original Bowman, or 2021 Bowman Draft, or whatever it might be, the auto version of that, right? So, but then what happens when 2022 hits, for instance, Bobby Witt Jr., Topps Chrome comes out. So I see cycles of huge demand of those secondary Bowman cards, and then kind of like a crash of those when the Topps Chrome. But then I think in the long term, those Bowman non-first cards end up long term. People start really liking them after they establish their careers. Right? So I think they go through that transition because there's no Bobby Witt cards at the time, but then there's this huge hype. So there's this huge surge of demand for the second tier. But then when he becomes a superstar, his Topps Chrome becomes one of the chases, and then people forget about that. So there's more supply, and then, you know what I mean? And then it recorrects itself kind of like in the future.
No, that's awesome to hear because because it's amazing advice. So if you're really bullish on a player, during that initial crash when there's more supply in general of their autographed rookie cards, that's the time to get it. Because I think even with this, like I'll show you on the screen, but this card, like it had that similar trend, where it peaked and then it kind of dipped when Topps Chrome came out, and then it's kind of creeping back up again.
Yeah, exactly. This is a perfect example right here. Because that blue, so 2020 Bowman, so that's from Bowman Chrome. So that was released, the second release. This is his second release. He was in original 2020 Bowman. A blue version of that Bowman Chrome, his first auto, is thousands of dollars, right? This one sold for $550 just recently.
Raw.
Yeah, raw, which is great because then and I guarantee you that card in 2020, when this came out, this was probably like $2,000. You know what I mean? Or whatever it was. I don't know if you have that data, but I guarantee you it was a lot more than $550 at release.
Right. No, that's crazy. So this is not his rookie card, eh?
No, that would be, so 2020 Bowman was released. That was his first. And then in the summer, 2020 Bowman Chrome was released that summer. So he would have played his first minor league season, and then this was his second technically card release.
Got you.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That kind of puts a nice bow tie on the segment. There's an example of a card to go after if you can't afford a first Bowman Bobby Witt. I'm super bullish on Bobby this year again. Obviously, the profit levels won't be there because his floors are inflated now. But if you look at what was the website I was on? Maybe Steamer or they rank the projections by WAR. Guess who's number one?
Bobby Witt.
Bobby Witt.
Yeah, I mean, he could change the game in so many different ways, and he's proof that he's gonna be a WAR monster. Like this is what, and whether you're for WAR or not, and I see both sides of the story. It doesn't really tell the whole picture, but I think it's the closest way to gauge a player's impact within the game itself. So Bobby Witt Jr., Aaron Judge. Those are the really like high WAR performers. Acuna would be there. Ohtani, obviously. So you want to stick with the high WAR players. I think people who don't produce a lot of WARs, and that's why I think guys like Rafael Devers, they don't get love because like you see the whole Bregman and Devers thing where
defense,
it's just defense really kills their overall performance when offensively they're one of the better hitters. Same with Yordan Alvarez. These are guys that should be 10 WAR type players if they could play, defense pretty well. So that's one thing to kind of notice. And Bobby Witt does it on both sides. That's why he's such a game changer, both defensively and offensively in many ways, that he becomes one, a massive fantasy league player, and two, a massive chase in terms of an investment piece.
Yep. And that reminds me, I'll reach out to Chris Begg and Jason Willow. We'll have them back on before the season starts. And then we'll do a deep dive into maybe the top 10 WAR projected players of this season. And then we could have a say in terms of are they collectible, or, are there opportunities to invest in players? Because, some of these guys might be surprising to you. Well, most of them aren't. But then in terms of the hobby, hobby logic, you have to consider that because some guys are just not collectible for whatever reason, as collectible. But yeah, I was looking at this and it's an interesting list. I'll give you the top 5. We won't talk about it, but number 5, projected WAR, Mookie Betts. Not a big surprise, but again, falls into the hobby logic category in terms of, he should still deserve more love with everything that he's done. Juan Soto, number 4. 6.1 for Mookie, 6.4 for Juan Soto. And the top 3 are Gunnar Henderson, who I think is kind of sneaky play still. Everyone's talking about Jackson. Everyone's talking about all the other top prospects and rookies, but Gunnar's killing it. He's projected for 7.1 WAR. And number 2, no surprise, Aaron Judge at 7.2. And then again, Bobby Witt at 7.4 this coming season. There you go. Can't wait for the baseball season to start. But yeah, we'll have those guys back on. And that'll be another fun episode with them. Okay, let's go on to our next segment. And it's another round of Over Under. All right, initially I was wanting to do a quiz show with you, but we'll save it for when John's back on, because I feel like it's more fun when both of you guys are on.
For sure.
To deliberate. So we'll just do a quick round of over-under. I got 4 cards for you at different price levels. And then, you tell me if the last sold price was over or under the amount that I give you. Okay, so we already talked about this player, Victor Wembanyama. I'm going with his Silver Prizm PSA 10 2023. $1,000 over under that amount. His Silver Prizm rookie card.
Didn't you tell me that what it sold for earlier? Or did you not?
Still sitting sideways since that May point, but
But there might have been a sale that
plus
went
minus
underneath that, huh?
A few hundred, yeah.
Do you know the pop count on that? I'm gonna
tell you right now. It is.
Take a little dive into this.
Pop count is 4,294 for a PSA 10.
4,000. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Hang on, let me just check. What's San Antonio doing this year? They're a 500 team, right? That's what I said that before. They're going to be in the fighting for kind of they're way under 500 now.
23 and 29
standings.
Yeah, 6 games below.
Sorry, I'm taking a long time. I'm just looking at NBA standings right now, where the Spurs are and how far they are from playoff contention. So 12th, 8th, yeah, that's going to be tough. 40-something games left.
They're still rebuilding.
So with that high pop count and with it sitting sideways with many options that Wemby has, and this could go either way because I have a feeling it's going to be just over or just under. But I'm going to go under in this case.
You're right. It sold for $840.
Wow. Yeah. So I think that part of that is the high pop count.
Yes.
The tremendous amounts of releases that Wemby has. So a lot of people are kind of off the silver. There's a lot more options, I think, at that price point too. I'd rather have an auto, right? So
yeah, and he has plenty of autos too. So yeah, like you said, lots of choices for Wemby collectors. All right, one for one. Next one, another silver prism of Patrick Mahomes, 2017, his rookie year. And I'm going to give you $5,000.
5,000. Man.
Just lost the Super Bowl.
I know that's why, but I'm not. Normally, I would say under, but I think there is support at 5,000. I want to think that there's support at 5,000, but it could be like 4,500 or whatever. So normally, I would say lower just because of the Super Bowl, but I think there's enough support and enough hype on Patrick Mahomes, especially that silver prism, because I think we're at close. I think it dipped when like Mahomes had his dump, but I think there's support at like that 45 to $5,000 level. So I'm going to say it's still over.
Yeah, your reasoning is right on, but it is 4,600. So it dipped under 5,000, but it is pretty stable between 45 and like even over 5,000 right now. To your point.
Right, yeah. Okay, nice.
A week before the Super Bowl, it was at 5,800. So it dipped to 46. Wow. Right?
Yeah,
but,
so 46 I think was a great buy.
Yeah, so that's kind of the floor now. I think that's what you're looking at. I don't think it's going to go below 4,000. I think those days are gone for Patrick Mahomes.
I agree.
I'm actually looking for a Mahomes card in case there are panic sellers out there.
100%, because you have the right years on those cards, because those are the ones that like that year Prism was not overproduced.
Yeah.
And like I said, I talk about his XRC card. I think that's kind of like that. I mean, that's 2016. That's his first Prism, true first Prism card, right? So
I'm all in for the XRC too. Yeah. But to your point again, his pop count for the Silver Prism PSA 10 is 968.
Wow, super low. Yeah.
Compared to what we were just talking about, Wemby was just over 4,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah. All right, two more. Speaking of high pop counts for Silver Prism, Luka Doncic, but I'm going with his 2018 Blue Prism. So nice color match, Blue Prism card, number to 199. These are all PSA 10s. I'm going to throw out 17,000.
Wow. 17,000. This one's tough because I don't know Luka's like high-end market. I haven't followed it in a while, but 17 seems really high. But it is a color match, PSA 10. And with the hype of the LA Lakers, I'm going to say, when was that sale? Last sale?
It was...
Had to have been last week or 2 weeks.
Recent. This past week.
This past week. I'm going to say it's over. It's over 17. It's going to be in 20K.
It sold for 14,500.
Oh, so I was wrong on that. Yeah.
But your instinct was right. It was high, but I'm sure a lot of people thought it would be around that number too because of the hype and everything. But that
card is amazing. By the way,
I love
That's
it.
one of Luka's best looking cards.
Yes, if you can afford it. Oh man, That's a sweet card to have for sure. All right, last one. This is super high end now because the over-under number is 100,000. Okay. 1996-97 Topps Chrome. We're just talking about the iconic brand of Topps Chrome. Refractor of Kobe Bryant, his rookie card. Iconic brand,
Kobe,
iconic card. Sold recently. PSA 10.
Do we have a pop count?
Yep. Now I know what to prepare before we do the segment again.
That pop count's everything to me.
No, it's for sure. His pop count is 63 in a PSA 10 Topps Chrome Refractor.
Wow. And is this all-time high?
All-time high is 500,000.
Oh.
In February of 2021.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say it's over. I'm gonna say there's gonna be another Kobe like long term. I'm just basing this off marketplace, just in general, what the sports card market is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as a whole, you got to categorize Kobe in that as like a class A share. Like this is the blue chip, the blue chip. So it has to be over 100K.
You're right. It sold for 104,432, but in December it's dipped to 93,000. So that's the more recent low. But it looks like it's back up at 100, and that's kind of the floor. If you look at the last 3-4 sales, it's hovering around the 100K mark. I don't think, to your point, it's going to dip any lower than that. There you go. You did pretty well for this over-under.
Not bad. Good reasoning, at least.
Yes.
And honestly, I have not been, admittedly, like I haven't been in on the hobby every day like I used to.
Right.
So these are like, yeah, life is happening fast right now for me. So like, but at the same time, I love this because it makes me hone in on the hobby because I do love the hobby.
Keeps you updated at current values. Yeah.
You know what? That's why I do this podcast, Clark, because it's actually for selfish reasons, because it's actually keeping me in the hobby, which I love.
Yeah.
And it's forcing me, it's self-accountability.
You know what? To all our listeners, to Hyung's credit, it's absolutely true, because I know how busy he is these days, and this is what I do for essentially full time. So I sometimes feel bad, like no,
I love it.
I can that's why I like to book guests and try to give both Hyung and John a little break every once in a while. But to Hyung's credit, he's like, no, I'm good to do it this week too. So
yeah, what episode? 270 episodes?
273, yeah.
273 episodes starting way back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yeah. We did a half year then, yeah. Starting in June.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like collecting, like we were talking about earlier, collect what you love, do what you love. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, that helps you be able to sustain what you're doing. And this is one of those examples. So
for sure.
Let's finish off this episode with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And this is when we debate two cards and we choose which one we would rather invest in for any of our new listeners. Hyung, do you want to start things off for us?
Sure. I'm going to go baseball, as people know, and we're going to do an interesting take here. I'm going to go Acuna and Tatis. So you have a stain resume versus 2 ACL surgeries. What's going to happen in this hobby in 2025 with these two guys? Okay. So right now, there's 2 sales that were somewhat within the last, I would say, month, 3 to 4 weeks, because their Bowman Chromes don't sell often, I would say, anymore, as often as they used to.
Yep.
So the Ronald Acuna 2017 Bowman Chrome Refractor, a PSA 9 Auto 10, so dual grade, sold for $1,300.
Wow.
So 2017 Bowman Chrome Refractor. Yeah, $1,300 for Ronald Acuna. His PSA 10s go for about double that, I would say.
PSA 9, okay.
Yeah, this is PSA 9.
Gotcha.
Okay?
$499.
So I'm just, out of $499, and Acuna, I gotta add, Acuna's auto is legit. This is the Acuna auto you want. Yes. Everything else, his autos suck.
Okay.
I'm going to pair that up with Fernando Tatis Bowman Chrome. Okay. His Bowman Chrome came from 2016, his first. A BGS 8.5 Auto 10. A blue refractor out of 150. It sold for $1,250. So same price as the refractor PSA 9 auto of Acuna. What are you going with? Because they're the same price.
That's a good one.
There's 2 perspectives.
Yeah.
One person spent $1,250. One person said, no, this is the better investment, $1,300. What do you think the justification was?
Okay.
Or what would you pick?
I know what I would pick.
I know what you would pick. Because this is a test, actually.
You know what I would pick? I don't know if you do. Oh, man. Here's my reasoning, though. I'll tell you my reasoning. I'm going to pick Ronald Acuna.
Really?
Yeah. Because the justification for Tatis is the card itself. It's more rare, right? It's a blue. It's a nice looking card. BGS 85, whatever. It's still numbered to 150. So, you give points for the rarity of the card. I'm choosing Acuna because of the player. You kind of mentioned it before. There's a certain stain on Tatis. Listen, there's rumors. I know there's just rumors of, let's make a trade for Tatis to the Jays. I'll be all for that. I'm like, okay, we could use a guy like Tatis, I don't care about the stain, whatever his reasons are, as long as he's producing. So I have no problem personally. But in the hobby, there might be some that are like, you know what? I'm just not looking at Tatis anymore. I don't want to take that risk, or I just don't want to assume it.
I thought all the Barry Bonds conversations were going to sway that, that
short-term memory. But Barry Bonds were waiting like decades, right? So Tatis might have to wait.
He's going to do it for everybody, though. He's going to do it for everybody. He's the guy.
That's an interesting argument. Yeah, that's an interesting argument. I might have to think about this a little bit longer. But right now, at this moment, I'm going with Acuna, the player. If he has another phenomenal high home run, high stolen base total, I think the stats will show for itself. And even though it's less scarce, it's still $4.99. I think there's a play for it. And honestly, Ronald Acuna is one of those guys. If I'm voting based on what I'm actually doing, Acuna is on my watch list over Tatis even now. So that's why.
Interesting. So the test, Clark, was actually that you didn't ask for the subgrades of the Tatis because you're supposed to crack it out.
Yeah.
And that was the play because, we talked about it with DC. He's the king of crack and submit, right? And this would be the perfect example. We would crack this.
Yeah.
And it would be a PSA 9 auto 10.
I failed the test. And this is, if you listen to our Friday episode, when I talked to DC, we're talking about this extensively. So I have a short-term memory, okay? I'm getting older. I guess I blocked that part out already. But that'll be the right play. If you're flipping.
My answer to this is Tatis.
Okay.
Because it is an 8.5, and the only subgrade is a surface, right? So it has good eye appeal.
Centering
it would
is
look
good?
a lot better. Centering is great. It's not perfect, but it's definitely over a 9.5.
But we talked about this on Friday's pod episode with DC. PSA is coming down hard, and DC's already seen...
On surfaces?
No, on centering. Remember they changed from 55
centering.
to 45?
Yeah. Right.
Instead of
I
60,
agree
40.
with that, though. I think they were way too lenient with the centering.
But this is what I'm saying. DC already got his recent PSA sub back. If you listen to a Friday episode, and he says, I'm getting a lot more PSA 9s now. So they're already cracking.
I would shoot for a PSA 9 on this card. Like that would be a huge bump.
Right, okay.
Because it would be a 8.5, similar to kind of like I guess the Trout.
Right.
Right? Kind of similar, where it's like I would expect a big upgrade would be a 9. And I've done that on that Max Verstappen 1/1 card where it was a 8.5 and I got the PSA 9 bump. So it would be in this same situation where, hey, it's a blue out of 150, first Bowman for $12.50. Crack that, resubmit it. That would be my play. But that's why I brought these up, because I thought you're so obsessed with crack and submits in the last few months, because you even did it with your Trout.
Yes.
And we recorded that.
Mm-hmm. If my BGS 9.5 refractor that I got starts to dip, we're going to have to do another crack and submit.
I'm not letting you do that one. No.
Why?
I don't think... I'm so... the reason why is there's a good chance you get a PSA 9.
Mm-hmm.
Just based on subjectivity and pop count. Right? So and it's numbered, so you never know. They might do research and say, okay, it was a BGS 9.5.
That's true.
Right? We're not going to give this a PSA 10. And that's what I'm scared of, is it's so subjective. If it was that BGS grades it properly and I'm confident that PSA is going to grade it properly, then yes, let's go ahead, because the upside of the PSA 10.
Fair.
But like you said, what DC's been experiencing too, and I get it, is because they're seeing so many of these older cards that look great, but then they're like, why are so many people submitting all these big cards? Why weren't they graded before? Yes, they were obviously graded before, and more people are cracking and submitting hoping for that PSA 10. So they're cracking down on the pop count, in my opinion.
Yep, that's a good reason. But at the same time, I'm telling you, like we heard from DC too, the BGS bump, right? From his graded card review. I don't get how it goes from a 9.5 or 10 to a black label from the same company. So you're not going to complain. You're benefiting from it. But
was it in a RC?
No, it was a graded slab card.
And they just requested, they cracked it, or they requested?
It was so it was in a 10-10 slab, right? So I guess during the GCR review, they're like, oh yeah, we'll up it to a black label
without cracking it.
Yeah, isn't that what GCR is? You don't crack it, right?
Oh, it was a raw card review.
No, a graded card review. There's a GCR.
Oh, graded card, like like a graded. Okay, I see. Yeah, that's a little. I don't know, man.
Anyway, this is why I don't understand. So I guess it depends on the day. Maybe the reviewer is like, no, I'm not going to look at past references. Yeah, it's just very subjective. So. And it depends on the conditions and what the situation is. I don't, you know what I mean? Like there's so many factors that can play into this. But anyway, that's another episode altogether. All right, let's go. Let's finish this with my pick one. If you remember the last time we did pick one together, I did Brady versus Mahomes. This is Brady versus Mahomes part 2. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think we chose Mahomes because the card for Brady wasn't the right one. It was the Bowman, not the Bowman Chrome rookie. Okay. Right. So I'm going really high end here. We're going for his Bowman Chrome, not just his Bowman Chrome, his Bowman Chrome Refractor, BGS 9.5, okay, of Tom Brady, sold for $102,000, right? And this is October of 2022, so these are the variables now. So it sold a few years ago, October 2022, $102,000 for a Bowman Chrome Refractor rookie, BGS 9.5, versus Patrick Mahomes Gold Prizm, number to 10. BGS 9.5 sold May of 2023 for $103,000. So pretty much the same price. One sold in 2023, one sold in 2022, closer to the peak. What are you going for?
This is easy for me. Not because I have $103,000 lying around, but because when you said gold, that was it. It's done. Okay. Prizm Gold.
Yeah.
That's all you needed to say. And for me, I think there's so much more upside on that Patrick Mahomes card because of that. Whereas the Brady is kind of like, okay, it's like those long-term, keep it in the safe. You know what I mean? It's in 10 years, it's probably going to have a nice steady increase, sit sideways a bit maybe. What was the peak of that, the Brady refractor? And is there any PSA 10 sales?
The peak looks like it was 462,000.
Right. So it's pretty low. Yeah. So it's
pop count is 32 for BGS 9.5, and the PSA 10 sold for 336,000 February of 2023.
2023. Okay. So it's not a bad investment. I don't think it's a bad investment. I think it's still reasonable buy at 103 based on comps. I think it could dip below 2, but the pop count is super low on that. But Mahomes is at a 10. And that's the true. Gold Prizm, the amount of eye appeal on that Gold Prizm Mahomes, to me that's a card that I think has massive legs.
Yep.
Like massive. So I'm going to go Mahomes.
I'm going with Mahomes as well. But I should have done more research because I filtered the card ladder by price. So that's why you're getting these dates, 2022, 23.
Oh, okay.
There was a more recent sale of the Brady Chrome Refractor in a BGS 9.5. 67,000.
Wow. So that's a great buy.
Are you buying that card at 67,000 or the Mahomes Gold?
I think I would. See, that's different now. 40% discount on the Brady. PSA 10 sold for $300K.
You're gonna crack and resubmit?
No, definitely not crack and resubmit just because of the pop count. But I would say I would say that was a high price point. It's still 2023, was still high. True value of the PSA 10 might be 200K, maybe. At BGS at half of that so I think it's a really good buy at 60K based on where the price is. So to me, it would be like, now you're talking a little more like even, I would say, at 67K, but
still going Mahomes.
That gold Prizm, man.
You got to. I think we still got to go Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree. I think the gold Mahomes, just because it's gold Prizm. Yeah. I think that's like the seal. I'd rather spend the premium for that card. Although, like, if you're talking now 50K, 40K for that Brady, I think that's where it's like, okay, yeah. I think that's the price point where I would say I would move over. I think 50,000 would be that price point if I move over.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll end off with this. One of the reasons is, for me, for this pick one is, I think Mahomes has done enough. People forget that he's won 3 Super Bowls already. You know what I mean? Like, people are, he lost another one, so 2 Super Bowl. But he's still young, and he's still, I think KC Chiefs will always be a contender.
Yeah, he's not done.
And, Brady, respect, obviously, he's a GOAT. I think he's in the GOAT category. But, Mahomes isn't done either, so...
And I think it's based on how his body matures, right? Because that's the thing that Brady had, his upside. He got better as his career progressed. So it's like your body has to be different than, you know what I mean? And that's up to Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day, and how much abuse he takes on the field right now, and is his longevity there, right? So that's the only thing that you would have to gauge. It's like, okay, do I see Patrick Mahomes as long term, or is this more of a next bump, sell, take the profits? Right, but Tom Brady, he's already done it. You know, it's a grail card, right? So
100%. Yep, I agree. All right, with that, thanks again to all our listeners and subscribers for tuning in. We appreciate you guys, and we'll have a brand new episode for you next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.